AudioBooksTube is glad to produce, publish, and offer The Shift, Embracing Change for a Better Tomorrow by Sage D. Esotreasure. Hi. Before we delve in the book, if you enjoy listening to our content, we'd love your support. Most of you watch and listen, but many haven't hit that subscribe button yet. If everyone who enjoys our audiobooks subscribed, we could grow this channel and create even better content just for you. So go ahead, click that subscribe button and join our community. Together, we can make this channel thrive. And now, back to the narration. Chapter 1, The Unseen Shifts. Life has a way of lulling us into a false sense of stability. We go about our days assuming that the things we rely on, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even our own personal routines, will remain as they are. We get comfortable, we settle in, and we develop expectations. However, life is anything but predictable, and more often than not, the foundations we stand on begin to shift beneath us, sometimes without us even noticing. Take a moment to think about your life. Whether you're satisfied with it or still striving for something better, you likely have certain constants that you believe you can rely on. You know where you work, who you spend your time with, the things that make you happy or keep you busy. These constants make life feel manageable. It's natural to depend on them. But what happens when the constants change? Imagine for a moment that you walk into your office one day, just like you've done for years, and suddenly the energy feels different. The smiles of your coworkers are just a little tighter, the usual conversations seem stilted, and the comforting hum of routine feels disrupted. You shrug it off at first. Maybe it's just a bad day. But as the weeks go by, you notice more. Projects are being reassigned, people are having quiet, closed-door meetings, and rumors about restructuring are circulating. That comfortable stability you once felt begins to feel fragile, even uncertain. Something is shifting. Or maybe the change isn't at work, but at home. You've been in a long-term relationship, and over time, you've fallen into patterns, habits that work for both of you, that give your life rhythm and structure. Then, one day, your partner starts to pull away. They seem distracted or disengaged, and you can't pinpoint when exactly this started. Conversations become shorter, moments of affection more sparse, and the stability you thought you had starts to feel shaky. Again, something has shifted. In both cases, there's a common element: change is happening, but it doesn't announce itself loudly. It sneaks in, slowly at first, until it's undeniable. It's easy to pretend these changes aren't happening, or to hope that they're temporary, that everything will go back to the way it was. But the truth is, the world around us is always changing, even when we don't notice. Our environments, whether personal or professional, are in constant motion. Just as the seasons shift without our approval, so do the circumstances in our lives. Yet, we often cling to the illusion of permanence, hoping that the good times will last forever, or that we'll somehow escape the natural ebb and flow that governs all things. We tell ourselves that stability is our right, but reality has a different lesson. Nothing stays the same. This idea, that life is always changing, is one we often resist. It's uncomfortable. It challenges the parts of us that crave security, that want to believe in a reliable future. After all, when we invest time, energy, and emotion into something, a career, a relationship, a project, we expect to see a return on that investment. We don't want to think about the possibility that it could end, or change in ways we hadn't anticipated. Yet, change is inevitable, whether we like it or not. The key isn't in trying to avoid it, but in learning to recognize it early, accept it, and adapt to it. Unfortunately, many of us do the opposite. We fight it. We ignore the signs that things are shifting, hoping that if we just wait long enough, the old normal will return. We cling to the past, even as the present pulls us in a new direction. Why is it that we resist change so much? Fear plays a big role. Change is often associated with uncertainty, and uncertainty is uncomfortable. We fear the unknown because we can't control it. We fear losing what we have, even if what we have isn't as fulfilling as it once was. There's safety in the familiar, even if it's flawed. So, we stay put, hoping that the change we sense won't come, or that it will be minor, something we can brush off or work around. But here's the truth: the more we resist change, the harder it becomes to adapt when it finally arrives. The longer we deny the reality that our environment is shifting, the more difficult it will be to find our footing once the old way of doing things is no longer viable. And that's where many people find themselves stuck, not because they don't have the ability to adapt, but because they've waited too long to accept that change is here. Think back to that office scenario. What if, instead of brushing off the signs, you had started to prepare the moment you felt something was different? What if, rather than waiting for the official announcement that layoffs were coming, you had updated your resume, expanded your network, or started exploring new opportunities? You might not have been able to stop the change, but you could have positioned yourself to navigate it with greater ease. The same goes for relationships. What if, instead of ignoring the growing distance between you and your partner, you had initiated an open and honest conversation? What if you had been proactive in addressing the shifts, instead of waiting for things to reach a breaking point? It might not have guaranteed a perfect outcome, but it could have opened the door to resolving issues before they became insurmountable. These are the kinds of questions we need to ask ourselves when we sense that change is happening. Instead of retreating into fear or denial, we need to embrace the idea that change is a natural part of life, and it often comes with opportunities we can't yet see. The more we tune into the shifts happening around us, the better equipped we'll be to adapt to them when the time comes. One of the most important lessons we can learn is to stay aware of our surroundings, aware of the subtle signs that things are moving in a new direction. When we cultivate this awareness, we give ourselves the gift of time. Time to adjust, time to plan, time to navigate the transition with grace rather than panic. So, the next time you notice something changing in your life, pay attention. Don't dismiss it as a fleeting feeling or an isolated incident. Ask yourself, what is this change telling me? What can I do to prepare for it? Instead of waiting for the change to overwhelm you, start thinking about how you can move with it. In the chapters that follow, we'll explore how to do exactly that, how to not only recognize when change is happening but how to embrace it, adapt to it, and ultimately, thrive because of it. The sooner we stop clinging to the old way of doing things, the sooner we can move forward into a new chapter of our lives, one that is filled with potential, growth, and yes, even joy. Chapter 2: Recognizing the Signals. Change doesn't happen overnight. It may feel sudden when it finally reaches us, but in truth, there are always signals, small shifts that occur long before the major change takes root. The key to thriving in a world that's constantly moving is not just to wait for change to arrive, but to anticipate it before it fully manifests. This skill of sensing and preparing for what's to come can be the difference between feeling overwhelmed by change and embracing it with confidence. Think of it this way: life is like a river, constantly flowing. At times, the current is gentle, moving us along at a comfortable pace. Other times, the water picks up speed, surging forward with energy and force. Some people sit on the banks, watching the water go by, content with its calmness, assuming it will always stay the same. But the river is never still. If we're not paying attention, we might miss the early signs of rapids or an approaching bend. The water churns differently, the wind picks up, or the trees lean slightly, indicating that change is ahead. Those who can recognize these small changes in the environment are better prepared when the river's pace quickens. They can navigate the twists and turns without panic, steering toward new paths rather than fighting against the current. In our lives, we often miss these subtle signals because we're not looking for them. We're comfortable where we are, content with the way things are going, and so we assume that today's patterns will continue into tomorrow. But if we've learned anything about life, it's that tomorrow is rarely the same as today. Changes, both big and small, are inevitable. Whether it's in our career, personal relationships, or even our own internal sense of self, the conditions around us are always shifting. And if we can learn to anticipate these changes, we'll be in a far better position to handle them. Consider the workplace. Many people are caught off guard by layoffs, restructuring, or leadership changes, but the truth is, there are almost always early indicators that something is about to shift. If we look closely, we'll notice subtle changes in behavior, new priorities in meetings, or a sudden shift in company goals. Perhaps the company starts spending more on certain initiatives while cutting budgets elsewhere. Or maybe key personnel leave, and no one is immediately replaced. These are signals, small, almost imperceptible signs, that a larger change is on the horizon. In relationships, too, the signs are often there long before a major shift happens. A partner who starts withdrawing emotionally, spending more time apart, or avoiding important conversations is signaling that something is off. Many people choose to ignore these signs, hoping things will go back to how they were, but the reality is that the earlier we notice these shifts, the more prepared we are to address them and adapt. Whether it's seeking a solution together or preparing for a new chapter, recognizing the signals allows us to take control of the situation rather than being blindsided. But how do we cultivate this awareness? How do we learn to spot these subtle signals in a world that moves quickly and often demands our attention in so many different directions? The answer lies in a few key habits that, when practiced regularly, can train us to become more attuned to the changes around us. Stay curious. One of the biggest barriers to anticipating change is complacency. When we assume that things will stay the same, we stop asking questions. We get comfortable in the rhythm of our lives and forget to stay curious about what's happening beneath the surface. Curiosity is the antidote to complacency. By asking questions, both of ourselves and the world around us, we remain engaged with what's happening now and what might happen next. In a work environment, this might mean staying curious about industry trends, new technologies, or shifting consumer preferences. Instead of assuming that the company's current strategy will always be effective, ask, what's next? What are other companies doing that might change the landscape of your field? What new skills could you learn that might be useful in the near future? In personal relationships, staying curious means regularly checking in with your partner, friends, or family members. It's easy to assume that things are fine just because no one is complaining. But the absence of conflict doesn't mean everything is perfect. By staying curious and asking open-ended questions, how are you feeling about where we are, or is there anything you need that we're not addressing? You can spot potential issues early and address them before they become significant problems. Read between the lines. Sometimes, the signals of change aren't loud or obvious. They're subtle shifts in tone, in emphasis, in the way people talk about the future. Learning to read between the lines is about paying attention to what's not being said as much as what is. If a manager starts emphasizing cost-cutting measures in meetings without directly mentioning layoffs, that's a clue. If a partner starts talking about needing more space or time alone, that's a signal that something might be brewing beneath the surface. In both professional and personal settings, it's important to listen carefully not just to the words, but to the intent behind them. Are people avoiding certain topics? Are they downplaying concerns that used to be front and center? These subtle shifts in communication often point to deeper changes ahead. Observe patterns over time. Not all changes happen suddenly. Often, they build slowly over time, accumulating like small drops of water until a tipping point is reached. To anticipate change, it's important to observe patterns, not just isolated incidents. Is your company cutting back on non-essential spending over several quarters? Has your partner been increasingly distracted over the past few months? These patterns tell a story, and the more you observe them, the clearer the picture becomes. Instead of reacting to each individual change as though it's a one-off event, start to connect the dots. What do these small shifts mean when you look at them together? If you notice that certain behaviors or decisions are happening with increasing frequency, it's likely that a larger change is coming. Embrace flexibility. Perhaps the most important habit to cultivate when anticipating change is flexibility. Being adaptable isn't just about reacting quickly when change happens. It's about maintaining a mindset that's open to the idea that things can and will shift. When you stay flexible, you're less likely to be thrown off course when change arrives. Instead of clinging to the way things are, you become more open to the possibility that things might evolve, and you start preparing for it. Being flexible means continuously learning, improving, and evolving. It's about asking, "What if?" and preparing yourself for multiple outcomes. By doing so, you're not just anticipating change, you're actively readying yourself for whatever comes next. Act on the signals. Of course, recognizing signals is only the first step. Once you notice that something is changing, the next step is to act. The earlier you respond to the signals of change, the more options you have. Waiting until the change is fully upon you often leaves you with fewer choices and more stress. Acting early allows you to steer the situation in a direction that benefits you. For example, if you notice that your industry is shifting toward automation, you can start learning new skills now, rather than waiting until your current job becomes obsolete. If you sense that your relationship is entering a difficult phase, you can initiate meaningful conversations or seek help early, rather than waiting until things become too strained. The ability to anticipate change is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed over time. By staying curious, reading between the lines, observing patterns, embracing flexibility, and acting on the signals, you can become more attuned to the world around you, and better prepared to navigate whatever changes come your way. As we move through life, changes will continue to happen. The key isn't to resist them, but to recognize them early and prepare ourselves for what's to come. The next chapters will explore how we can sharpen our ability to see the signals and how we can use that insight to make meaningful, proactive changes in our lives before the change forces our hand. By doing so, we place ourselves in a position not just to survive change, but to thrive in it. Chapter 3: Signs of Decay. In life, we often become so accustomed to our routines, relationships, and careers that we stop questioning whether they are still serving us. We get comfortable, and comfort leads to complacency. The things we once cherished, worked hard for, or felt passionate about can begin to lose their luster, but we may not notice at first. The truth is, everything has an expiration date. If we don't pay attention, we can find ourselves clinging to situations long after their time has passed, hoping they will revive themselves. This chapter is about recognizing when something is no longer working and taking action before it's too late. Imagine your favorite meal sitting out on the kitchen counter. At first, it's fresh, steaming, and irresistible. But if you leave it there for days, the food starts to change. It spoils slowly, first losing its aroma, then its color, and finally, it starts to emit a foul smell. By the time you can no longer ignore the stench, the food is clearly no longer edible, and you wonder why you didn't put it in the fridge or eat it earlier. Life's opportunities, relationships, and projects are no different. If we don't regularly check the freshness of what we're involved in, we might miss the early signs of decline. In a fast-moving world, it's crucial to take stock of what's working and what isn't, to prevent stagnation. Most people struggle with this because they become emotionally attached to the way things used to be, hoping that things will stay the same or magically improve on their own. But like that spoiled meal on the counter, some things in life simply go bad over time. Jobs, relationships, and even personal goals can become stale if we don't actively monitor them. Stuck in the past, the danger of denial. One of the most common ways people respond to stagnation is through denial. Denial is a powerful emotional force that allows us to keep pretending that everything is fine, even when it's clearly not. When we sense that something is starting to decline, whether it's a career that's no longer fulfilling, a relationship that's fraying at the edges, or even our own sense of purpose, it's easier to close our eyes and hope for the best than to confront the problem. Think about a job that no longer excites you. You may have once been passionate about it, but now the spark is gone. You dread waking up in the morning, and you go through the motions without any real engagement. Yet, instead of addressing the issue, you tell yourself, it's just a rough patch. Things will get better. You convince yourself that it's normal to feel this way, that it's part of adult life, and that everyone is going through the same thing. So, you continue to show up, day after day, slowly becoming more disengaged, hoping that the passion will return on its own. The same thing can happen in relationships. At first, everything feels exciting and new. But over time, conflicts arise, communication breaks down, or you simply drift apart. Instead of having the difficult conversation, you choose to avoid the issue, telling yourself that it's just a phase, that things will go back to the way they used to be. But without action, the decay continues, and the relationship deteriorates until it's almost unrecognizable. Denial keeps us stuck in these situations because it's easier to ignore the problems than to face them head-on. However, the longer we stay in denial, the worse the situation becomes. By the time we finally acknowledge that something is wrong, it may be too late to salvage what we once had. The damage has been done, and we're left wondering how we didn't see the signs earlier. Early warning signs: how to spot decline before it's too late. The good news is that we don't have to let things get to the point of no return. Just like food shows signs of spoiling long before it becomes inedible, there are always early warning signs that a situation is deteriorating. The key is to stay vigilant and actively monitor the things that matter most in your life. Loss of excitement and engagement. The first sign of decline is often a loss of excitement. What used to light you up now feels like a chore. In a job, this might mean that you're no longer challenged or motivated. You find yourself disengaging from tasks, doing the bare minimum to get by, and counting down the hours until the end of the day. In a relationship, it could be a lack of enthusiasm for spending time together or feeling more drained than energized by your partner. Avoidance of important conversations. When something starts to go wrong, people tend to avoid addressing it. You might notice that you or others are dodging difficult conversations, whether that's with a boss about your role, with a partner about growing tension, or even with yourself about your personal fulfillment. When people start to avoid the truth, it's a sign that something is being neglected. Stagnation in growth or progress. If you're not growing, you're stagnating. In a career, this could mean that you've hit a plateau. You're no longer learning new skills, advancing in your role, or seeing any progress toward your long-term goals. In a relationship, stagnation might look like a lack of new experiences, growth as individuals, or shared aspirations. If things are standing still for too long, it's often a sign that something needs to change. Emotional numbness or frustration. One of the clearest signs of decline is how you feel. If you notice that you're emotionally checked out, whether at work, in a relationship, or with a personal goal, it's time to pay attention. Emotional numbness often comes from staying in situations that no longer serve us. On the flip side, constant frustration or irritation can also indicate that something is off. If you're frequently annoyed or upset, it's worth exploring why. Increased complaining without taking action. If you find yourself complaining about the same issue over and over again but doing nothing to change it, that's a strong indicator of decline. Whether it's complaining about your job, your boss, or your relationship, if the complaints are frequent but no action is taken, it means you're stuck in a cycle of frustration without addressing the root cause. Checking in. How to regularly assess what's working. Once you've identified the early signs of decline, the next step is to create a system for regularly assessing the key areas of your life. Just like you wouldn't leave food out without checking whether it's still good, you shouldn't let important aspects of your life run on autopilot. Here's how to build a habit of regularly assessing what's working and what's not. Set aside time for reflection. Create a routine for reflection. This could be once a month, once a quarter, or even once a week, depending on the situation. The goal is to take time to step back and evaluate whether the things you're invested in are still serving you. Ask yourself questions like, am I still excited about this? Am I growing in this area? Is this relationship or project moving in a direction that aligns with my values? Be honest with yourself. It's easy to convince yourself that everything is fine, especially if change seems hard or uncomfortable. But true growth requires honesty. If something is no longer working, acknowledge it. It doesn't mean you have to immediately walk away, but recognizing the issue is the first step toward finding a solution. Get feedback from others. Sometimes, it's hard to see the signs of decline from the inside. Seek feedback from trusted colleagues, friends, or partners. They might have noticed things you haven't. Honest feedback can help you gain a clearer perspective on whether something is still working or if it's time to make changes. Create action plans for improvement. If you notice that something is starting to decline, don't wait for it to completely fall apart. Take action early. Whether that's having a difficult conversation with a partner, seeking new opportunities in your career, or revisiting your personal goals, taking proactive steps can often prevent things from deteriorating further. Letting go of what no longer serves you. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, things simply run their course. Jobs end, relationships shift, and personal goals evolve. When this happens, it's important to let go. Holding on to something that no longer serves you can keep you stuck in a cycle of frustration and disappointment. Letting go doesn't mean failure, it means making space for new opportunities and growth. If you've noticed that something in your life is decaying, whether it's a relationship, a career path, or a long-held goal, take it as a sign that change is needed. It might be time to refresh, reset, or even move on entirely. Whatever the situation, recognizing the signs of decline early gives you the power to choose your next steps before circumstances force your hand. In the end, everything in life has a season. By regularly assessing what's working and being honest about when things have run their course, you can make room for new opportunities and growth rather than clinging to something that no longer adds value. Chapter 4: The Power of Letting Go. We all carry a deep attachment to the familiar. Whether it's a job we've held for years, a relationship we've nurtured, or a dream we've chased for as long as we can remember, there's comfort in what we know. It's human nature to hold on to things, especially when they've been a significant part of our lives. But what happens when those things no longer serve us? When holding on causes more harm than letting go? The answer lies in one of the most challenging yet liberating decisions we can make: learning to let go. Letting go isn't easy. It often feels like we're abandoning something important or admitting defeat. We may fear the unknown or worry about what others will think. But holding on to something that no longer supports our growth is one of the most common reasons we feel stuck in life. We stay rooted in situations that have passed their prime, hoping that they will revive themselves, while deep down, we know that change is necessary. This chapter is about understanding the power of letting go, why it's so hard, what we stand to gain by embracing it, and how to move forward with confidence. Letting go is not about giving up, it's about making space for new opportunities, growth, and experiences that align with who we are becoming. Why letting go is so hard? Letting go often feels like losing a part of ourselves. We define ourselves by our jobs, relationships, and goals, so when those things begin to fall apart or stop serving us, the idea of walking away can feel like a loss of identity. This is especially true when we've invested time, energy, and emotion into something. It's hard to admit that something we've worked for is no longer working. Psychologists call this the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue investing in something because of the time, money, or energy we've already put into it, even when it's clear that the situation is no longer beneficial. We think, I've already come this far, so I can't stop now. But this line of thinking keeps us trapped. Just because we've invested in something doesn't mean we need to keep holding on to it. especially if it's no longer serving our needs or contributing to our growth. There's also fear. Fear of the unknown is a powerful force. We know what we have, even if it's no longer ideal, and the idea of stepping into something new, something uncertain, can be terrifying. But fear is often what keeps us from experiencing the breakthroughs we need to move forward in life. We hold on tightly to what we know, even if it's no longer good for us, because the uncertainty of what lies ahead seems scarier than the discomfort of the present. We also fear failure. Letting go can feel like admitting that we've failed, that the job, the relationship, or the dream didn't turn out the way we expected. But failure is not the same as quitting. Letting go is often an act of courage, or recognition that we're ready to move on to something new, and that clinging to the old will only hold us back. The freedom in letting go. Letting go can be one of the most freeing experiences of our lives. When we finally release something that no longer serves us, we open up space for new possibilities. Instead of carrying the weight of what isn't working, we make room for growth, for new opportunities, and for things that align more closely with who we are and who we want to become. Think of your life like a garden. Every plant has its time to grow, blossom, and, eventually, fade. If you never let go of the plants that are no longer thriving, they'll crowd the garden, preventing new growth. Weeds will take over, and the garden will no longer flourish. But if you regularly tend to it, removing what's no longer growing, you give space for new plants to take root. In the same way, letting go of the things in life that are no longer thriving allows you to nurture the areas that are ready to grow. Letting go also gives you a sense of empowerment. When you make the decision to release something, you take control of your life, rather than letting circumstances dictate your path. It's a statement that you value yourself and your future enough to make tough choices. It shows that you're willing to trust in your ability to adapt and that you believe something better is waiting for you on the other side of that decision. In relationships, letting go can bring clarity and healing. We often stay in relationships long past their expiration date because of the fear of hurting the other person or because we're afraid of being alone. But in doing so, we prevent both ourselves and the other person from growing. Letting go of a relationship that isn't working doesn't mean the relationship was a failure. It means that it has fulfilled its purpose, and it's time to move forward. In careers, letting go can open up doors you never imagined. People often stay in jobs that no longer challenge or inspire them because they're afraid of what might happen if they leave. But when you let go of a career path that no longer aligns with your goals or values, you open yourself up to new possibilities, roles that may offer greater fulfillment, growth, and satisfaction. Steps to letting go. The process of letting go isn't something that happens overnight. It takes time, reflection, and often a series of small steps. Here are some practical ways to begin the process. Acknowledge what's not working. The first step to letting go is recognizing when something is no longer serving you. This requires honesty with yourself. Take time to assess the areas of your life that feel stagnant, unfulfilling, or frustrating. Be honest about how you feel and why you've been holding on. Are you staying because you truly want to, or because you're afraid of what happens if you leave? Identify what you're afraid of. Often, the hardest part of letting go is confronting the fear that's keeping you stuck. Ask yourself what you're really afraid of. Is it fear of the unknown? Fear of failure? Fear of judgment from others? Once you identify your fear, it becomes easier to address it. You can begin to challenge the belief that this fear should dictate your actions. Focus on what you gain, not just what you lose. When we think about letting go, we often focus on what we're losing: the job, the relationship, the dream. But it's important to shift your perspective and focus on what you stand to gain. What new opportunities could open up if you let go of what's holding you back? What growth might you experience by embracing change? Shifting your focus can make the decision feel less like a loss and more like an opportunity. Take small steps toward change. Letting go doesn't have to happen all at once. If you're struggling with the idea of making a big change, start small. Take small steps toward releasing what's no longer working. This might mean having a difficult conversation, updating your resume, or simply beginning to explore new possibilities. Each small step brings you closer to the moment when you're ready to fully let go. Trust yourself. Letting go requires trust. Trust that you're making the right decision, and trust that you have the strength to handle whatever comes next. Remind yourself that you've faced change before and survived it. You've navigated challenges, adapted to new circumstances, and come out stronger on the other side. Trust that you have the inner resources to handle the transition, even if it feels uncertain at first. Moving forward with grace. Letting go isn't just about leaving something behind, it's about moving forward with grace and intention. It's about recognizing when something has run its course and having the courage to create space for new growth. While the process can be painful, it's also an opportunity for transformation. It allows us to shed what no longer serves us and embrace the unknown with a sense of curiosity and possibility. As you move forward, remember that letting go is a process. It doesn't happen in a single moment, but through a series of choices that gradually free you from the past and guide you toward a new future. The sooner we learn to let go, the sooner we can begin to thrive in the present and welcome the new opportunities that life is ready to offer us. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to embrace the uncertainty that comes with letting go and how to navigate the space between endings and new beginnings. Because while letting go is powerful, the transition that follows can be just as important. It's in that space where we begin to shape the next chapter of our lives. Chapter 5: Moving with Life's Currents. Change is a constant. It flows through every aspect of our existence, our relationships, careers, personal growth, and even the world around us. We can resist it, dig our heels in, and fight against it, but in doing so, we waste energy and create unnecessary stress. Instead, the most powerful and effective approach is to learn how to move with life's currents. When we adapt to the flow of change rather than resisting it, we find that it often carries us to new opportunities, discoveries, and growth. Imagine a river with a swift current. If you try to swim upstream, fighting against the force of the water, it's exhausting. You might make some progress, but the effort leaves you drained and barely moving forward. On the other hand, if you let go of the struggle and swim with the current, you can cover more distance with less effort. You begin to flow with the river rather than against it, allowing it to guide you in new directions. Life's changes are like that river. Learning to move with them instead of against them can transform how we experience transitions, challenges, and even setbacks. But what does it mean to move with change? It's more than just accepting that change is happening. It's about becoming an active participant in the process, shaping it, responding to it, and allowing it to work in your favor. Moving with change means staying open to the new possibilities that arise, being flexible in your approach, and finding ways to adapt without losing your sense of direction or purpose. Shifting your perspective. One of the first steps to moving with change is shifting your mindset. Many of us instinctively view change as something negative, a disruption, a loss, or a challenge to overcome. When change comes, our initial reaction might be fear, resistance, or frustration. But if we view change as something to be fought, we become stuck. Our energy is spent trying to hold on to what is no longer there, rather than adapting to what is coming. Instead, we need to change how we think about change itself. What if, instead of seeing change as an obstacle, we saw it as an opportunity? What if we viewed each shift in our lives as a chance to learn something new, discover a different path, or explore untapped potential? Shifting from a mindset of resistance to one of curiosity can make a world of difference. Curiosity opens the door to possibility. It allows us to ask questions like, where is this change leading me? And what can I learn from this situation? By shifting our perspective, we transform the way we experience change. It's no longer something happening to us, but something happening for us. This subtle shift in thinking empowers us to engage with change rather than retreat from it. Embracing flexibility. Moving with change requires flexibility. Life rarely follows a straight path, and the more rigid we are in our expectations, the harder it becomes to navigate the twists and turns. Flexibility is about being able to bend without breaking, to adjust our course when necessary while keeping our larger goals in mind. Think of flexibility like a tree swaying in the wind. A tree that's rigid and unmoving in a strong wind is likely to snap, while a tree that bends and moves with the wind's force is more likely to survive the storm. Similarly, when change sweeps through our lives, those who are flexible are able to bend with the situation and emerge stronger. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up on what's important to you. It means finding different ways to achieve your goals when circumstances shift. For example, if you're in a career that's undergoing significant change, such as new technology reshaping your industry, you could resist it, wishing things would go back to the way they were. Or, You could embrace the change by learning new skills, exploring new roles, or adapting your expertise to the new landscape. Flexibility allows you to move forward even when the path isn't clear or familiar. In relationships, flexibility means being open to growth and evolution. People change over time, and so do the dynamics of relationships. Instead of resisting that growth or trying to hold on to an earlier version of the relationship, flexibility allows you to move forward together, finding new ways to connect, communicate, and support each other. Taking action, not just reacting. Moving with life's currents doesn't mean passively waiting for change to carry you where it will. It's about actively participating in the process. There's a big difference between reacting to change and taking deliberate action in response to it. Reacting is often done in a state of stress or panic. It's a knee-jerk response to something unexpected. Taking action, on the other hand, is thoughtful and intentional. It's about assessing the situation and making informed decisions about how to navigate the change. Imagine you're sailing a boat and the wind shifts direction. You could let the wind blow you wherever it chooses, or you could adjust your sails to make the most of the new conditions. By adjusting the sails, you're still moving with the wind, but you're doing so with intention, guiding your boat toward your destination. In the same way, when change occurs, it's important to take thoughtful action rather than simply reacting. Ask yourself, what do I need to do to make the most of this situation, and how can I adapt in a way that aligns with my long-term goals? Taking action means staying proactive, even when you're in the midst of change. It's about recognizing that you have the power to influence the outcome, rather than being swept along by circumstances. Whether that means learning new skills, seeking advice, or changing your approach, taking action keeps you moving forward with purpose. Finding stability in change. One of the biggest challenges people face when navigating change is the fear of losing stability. We crave security and predictability, and change can feel like it's taking that away. But it's important to remember that stability doesn't have to come from external circumstances, it can come from within. When you cultivate internal stability, you can weather external changes with greater ease. Internal stability comes from knowing your values, goals, and strengths. When you have a strong sense of who you are and what matters most to you, change becomes less threatening. You know that no matter what happens around you, you have the tools and the mindset to navigate it. This internal stability acts like an anchor, keeping you grounded even when the waters are rough. One way to cultivate internal stability is through self-reflection. Take time to regularly check in with yourself. What are your core values? What goals are you working toward? How do you want to grow as a person? When you're clear on these things, you can approach change with confidence, knowing that even if the path shifts, your direction remains steady. Another way to build internal stability is through routines that support your well-being. Practices like mindfulness, exercise, or journaling can help create a sense of continuity even when external circumstances are changing. These routines provide a foundation that you can rely on, helping you stay centered and focused. The gift of adaptation. Adaptation is a skill, and like any skill, it gets stronger the more we practice it. When we move with change, we're practicing the art of adaptation, learning how to adjust our course, embrace new opportunities, and remain resilient in the face of uncertainty. Every time we successfully adapt to change, we build confidence in our ability to handle whatever comes next. There's a freedom that comes with knowing you can adapt. You stop fearing change and start seeing it as an integral part of life, a part that, while challenging, can lead to new growth, experiences, and success. The more we embrace this mindset, the more capable we become of navigating life's currents with grace and ease. In the end, moving with change isn't about passively accepting whatever happens. It's about engaging with change in a way that allows you to grow, evolve, and continue moving toward your goals. Life's currents will continue to shift, but by learning to move with them, you turn what might seem like obstacles into stepping stones. You find new pathways, explore new possibilities, and discover that the unknown is not something to fear, but something to embrace. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to cultivate resilience in times of change, building the emotional and mental strength needed to handle the unexpected and continue thriving, no matter what life throws your way. Chapter 6: Welcoming the New. Change often begins as a ripple, a small disturbance in the water that gradually grows larger until it transforms the entire landscape of our lives. Whether we are ready for it or not, change arrives and shifts our reality, altering the paths we once thought were set in stone. While we may initially resist this process, there's an essential part of navigating life that many people overlook: the importance of welcoming the new. For many, the natural response to change is resistance, fear, or anxiety. We're creatures of habit, and when the world around us shifts, it's tempting to cling to what we know, to what's comfortable. But what if, instead of fighting the inevitable, we could learn to embrace the new with open arms? What if we could see change as an opportunity rather than a threat, and new beginnings as a gift waiting to be unwrapped? This chapter explores the power of welcoming the new ideas, new opportunities, new experiences, and how adopting an attitude of openness can transform not just how we handle change, but how we thrive in the face of it. Seeing the possibilities. One of the first steps to welcoming the new is shifting our perspective on what new really means. All too often, we associate change with loss, losing a familiar job, or relationship, or a way of life. But newness, in its purest form, is not about what's gone, but what's possible. It's about opening yourself to the unknown, trusting that even though you can't see the full picture yet, there are opportunities waiting that you never could have imagined. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest. You've always walked the same path through the woods, knowing exactly where it leads and what to expect. One day, that path is blocked. Fallen trees or a shift in the landscape make it impassable. At first, you feel lost. The familiar way forward is no longer accessible. But what if, instead of panicking, You pause and look around. You notice another trail, one you've never taken before. It's unfamiliar and might even seem a little daunting. But there's something exciting about it, too. By stepping onto that new path, you open yourself up to a different kind of journey, one that could lead you to places you never knew existed. In life, it's much the same. When old paths become blocked or no longer serve us, new ones appear. And while these new paths may be uncertain, they also hold immense possibility. Welcoming the new is about trusting that the road ahead, while unfamiliar, has the potential to lead you somewhere better than where you've been. Letting go of expectations. To truly embrace the new, we must also let go of the expectations we've built around how life should be. Expectations are often the root of disappointment. We create a picture in our minds of how things are supposed to unfold, what our careers, relationships, or personal achievements should look like. And when life doesn't follow the script, we feel frustrated, upset, or lost. But welcoming the new requires us to release these rigid expectations. It's about recognizing that life is not a straight line from point A to point B, but a journey full of twists, turns, and unexpected detours. The sooner we let go of the need for life to conform to our plans, the easier it becomes to welcome new opportunities as they arise. Consider a time when something in your life didn't go as planned. Perhaps you applied for a promotion and didn't get it, or you were working toward a goal that didn't materialize the way you thought it would. Initially, the disappointment likely stung. You had an expectation of how things should turn out, and reality didn't match it. But in hindsight, you might have realized that the setback led to something better, a different opportunity, a new direction, or an unexpected lesson that made you stronger. When we let go of expectations, we make space for the new. Instead of clinging to the way things should be, we open ourselves up to the way things could be. And often, what comes next is better than what we originally envisioned. Cultivating curiosity. One of the most effective ways to welcome the new is by cultivating curiosity. When we're curious, we approach life with a sense of wonder rather than fear. Curiosity invites us to explore the unknown, to ask questions, and to seek out new experiences without the need for immediate answers or certainty. Children are naturally curious. They don't resist new things, they're excited by them. A child who encounters something unfamiliar, a new game, a new environment, or a new idea, approaches it with a sense of wonder, eager to discover what it's all about. As we grow older, however, we tend to lose some of that curiosity. We become more cautious, more set in our ways, and more resistant to stepping into the unknown. But what if we could reclaim that childlike curiosity? What if, instead of dreading change, we could approach it with excitement, eager to learn what's around the next corner? Curiosity turns the unknown from something to be feared into something to be explored. Take a moment to reflect on a time when you learned something new or stepped into an unfamiliar situation. Maybe it was a new hobby, a travel destination, or a conversation with someone who offered a different perspective. Initially, you might have felt nervous or uncertain, but as you allowed your curiosity to take the lead, you likely discovered something enriching. Curiosity opens doors, both to new experiences and to new ways of thinking. By cultivating curiosity in the face of change, you not only reduce fear but also invite growth. You begin to see the new as an opportunity to learn, to expand, and to discover aspects of yourself and the world that you hadn't previously considered. If you're enjoying this audiobook and finding value in the content, we kindly ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. A large portion of our listeners and viewers haven't subscribed yet, and by doing so, you'll help us grow and continue bringing you more high-quality audiobooks. Your support means a lot to us, and it's just one click away. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay connected and never miss out on our latest releases. Embracing new experiences. Welcoming the new is also about embracing new experiences, even when they feel uncomfortable. Growth rarely happens in comfort zones. It's the moments when we step outside of what's familiar, when we try something different or challenge ourselves in new ways, that we truly grow. Imagine an artist who paints the same kind of landscape over and over. Their work might be beautiful, but if they never experiment with new techniques, colors, or styles, they'll never grow as an artist. The same is true for us. If we always stick to what we know, we limit our potential for growth. But when we embrace new experiences, whether it's learning a new skill, traveling to an unfamiliar place, or engaging with people who think differently than we do, we expand our horizons and discover new facets of ourselves. The truth is, new experiences often come with a sense of discomfort. It's natural to feel uneasy when stepping into unfamiliar territory. But that discomfort is a signal that you're growing. It's a sign that you're pushing beyond your limits and expanding your capabilities. The more you embrace these new experiences, the more comfortable you'll become with the idea of change itself. Trusting the process. Finally, welcoming the new requires trust, trust in the process, trust in yourself, and trust in life's ability to unfold in ways that serve your growth. Change doesn't always make sense in the moment. Sometimes, it feels chaotic, unpredictable, or even unfair. But when we learn to trust that the new is arriving for a reason, we open ourselves up to the possibility that this change is exactly what we need. Trusting the process means acknowledging that you don't have to have all the answers right away. You don't have to know exactly where the new path will lead. It's enough to take the first step, to remain open, and to allow life to guide you forward. There's a certain magic that happens when we stop trying to control every aspect of our lives and instead trust that life is moving us in the right direction. We begin to see that change, no matter how disruptive it may seem at first, often carries within it the seeds of something beautiful. It's only by welcoming the new that we allow those seeds to take root and grow. A new beginning. Welcoming the new is a mindset. It's about shifting from resistance to acceptance, from fear to curiosity, from control to trust. When we learn to embrace the new with open arms, we transform how we experience change. Instead of seeing it as something to survive, we start to see it as something to celebrate, a sign that life is offering us the chance to grow, evolve, and explore new possibilities. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build resilience in the face of change, cultivating the inner strength and adaptability needed to thrive in an ever-changing world. Because while welcoming the new is a powerful first step, the journey of navigating change requires resilience, flexibility, and a willingness to keep moving forward, no matter what life throws our way. Chapter 7: Conquering the Fear of the Unknown. One of the most powerful emotions we face when confronted with change is fear, specifically, the fear of the unknown. The unknown is vast and unpredictable, and as humans, we are wired to seek safety in what is familiar. It's natural to feel uneasy when we don't know what lies ahead, but the fear of the unknown often holds us back far more than the changes themselves. Fear is tricky. It convinces us that staying in our comfort zone is the best option, even when that comfort zone has become stale or unfulfilling. It whispers that the risks of stepping into new territory are too great, that failure is inevitable, and that we're safer sticking with what we know. But if we give in to this fear, we limit our potential for growth, happiness, and fulfillment. The truth is, everything we want, everything that leads to a richer, more meaningful life, lies on the other side of that fear. This chapter is about understanding and confronting the fear of the unknown. By learning to recognize this fear for what it is, we can move beyond it, embracing change with courage and confidence. The unknown may be scary, but it is also full of possibility. Understanding the roots of fear. Fear is a natural human response, hardwired into us from the days when survival depended on avoiding danger. In those early days, fear helped protect us from predators and physical threats. But today, many of the things we fear are not life-threatening. Instead, they are psychological or emotional fears: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointment. At the heart of the fear of the unknown is a lack of control. We don't know what will happen next, and that uncertainty triggers our survival instincts. Our brains crave predictability and familiarity because these make us feel safe. So when faced with change, we instinctively resist it because it takes us into uncharted territory, where outcomes are unclear. However, the unknown is not inherently dangerous. In fact, most of the time, it's simply unfamiliar. And just because something is unfamiliar doesn't mean it's bad. The challenge is learning to recognize when our fear of the unknown is holding us back from opportunities that could enrich our lives. Reframing the unknown. The first step in conquering the fear of the unknown is to reframe how we think about it. Instead of seeing the unknown as something to be feared, we can learn to view it as a space of potential, an open door that leads to new experiences, growth, and possibility. Think of a time when something unexpected happened in your life. Perhaps it was a career shift, a move to a new city, or a change in a relationship. Initially, It may have been frightening because you didn't know what to expect. But now, looking back, you might realize that this unknown territory led to some of the most important lessons or opportunities in your life. The unknown is like a blank canvas. While it can feel overwhelming to face a space where nothing is certain, it's also full of potential for you to create something new. Instead of focusing on the risks, we can choose to focus on the possibilities. What if this change leads to a new adventure? What if it opens doors you never knew existed? By shifting our mindset, we transform the unknown from something to dread into something to explore. Separating realistic risks from exaggerated fears. Another important step in conquering the fear of the unknown is learning to separate realistic risks from exaggerated fears. When we face uncertainty, our minds tend to create worst-case scenarios. We imagine all the things that could go wrong, and in doing so, we magnify the risks far beyond their actual likelihood. For example, imagine you're considering leaving your current job to pursue a new opportunity. Your fear of the unknown might whisper that if you leave, you could fail in the new role, end up unemployed, or lose your financial security. While these things could happen, they're not guaranteed. In fact, the most likely outcome is that you'll adapt to the new role, learn new skills, and grow in ways that you couldn't have predicted. By focusing on worst-case scenarios, we allow fear to cloud our judgment and prevent us from taking steps that could lead to positive outcomes. Instead, it's helpful to ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen, and how likely is it really? Often, when we break down our fears logically, we realize that the risks aren't as catastrophic as we imagined. At the same time, it's important to acknowledge the real risks that do exist. Conquering the fear of the unknown isn't about being reckless or ignoring potential challenges. It's about being honest with yourself about what could go wrong while also recognizing what could go right. By balancing both, you can make decisions from a place of clarity rather than fear. Building confidence through action. One of the most effective ways to overcome the fear of the unknown is by taking action, even if that action is small. Fear thrives in inaction. When we remain stuck, overthinking all the possibilities and worrying about what could happen, our fear grows. But when we take steps, no matter how small, toward the unknown, we start to build confidence. Think of fear like a shadow. When you stand still, the shadow looms large, making everything feel overwhelming. But as you begin to move, the shadow shrinks. Each step you take into the unknown diminishes the fear that once felt so paralyzing. Taking action doesn't mean diving headfirst into a huge change without preparation. It can be as simple as breaking the unknown into smaller, manageable steps. If you're thinking about starting a new business, for example, you don't need to quit your job and launch it all at once. Instead, start by researching the market, networking with others in the field, or creating a plan. Each step forward reduces the power of fear and builds your confidence. The more you act, the more you'll realize that the unknown isn't as scary as it seems. Each action brings you closer to understanding, to clarity, into the realization that you are capable of navigating whatever comes your way. Trusting yourself. Conquering the fear of the unknown also requires trust in yourself. When you face uncertainty, it's natural to doubt whether you have what it takes to succeed or adapt. But the reality is, you've already overcome countless unknowns in your life. Every new experience you've had, every challenge, every transition, has required you to step into the unknown, and you've made it through each time. Take a moment to reflect on past changes you've navigated. Maybe it was starting a new job, entering a new relationship, or moving to a new place. At the time, those things likely felt intimidating, but you adapted. You figured it out. You grew. And the same will happen again. By trusting yourself, you build resilience. You recognize that, while you can't predict the future, you can trust your ability to handle whatever comes. This trust is the foundation that allows you to face the unknown with confidence, knowing that even if things don't go exactly as planned, you have the inner strength to navigate the journey. Embracing the journey, not just the destination. One of the reasons we fear the unknown is because we focus too much on the outcome. We want to know that everything will turn out perfectly before we even begin. But life doesn't work that way. The unknown is not just about reaching a destination, it's about the journey itself. When we shift our focus from needing certainty to embracing the process, we free ourselves from the grip of fear. The unknown becomes less about achieving a specific result and more about experiencing the growth, learning, and opportunities that come along the way. Instead of asking, "What will happen if I step into the unknown?" try asking, "What can I learn from this experience, regardless of the outcome?" This mindset helps you appreciate the journey for what it is, a chance to discover new things about yourself and the world around you. Rewriting your story. In the end, conquering the fear of the unknown is about rewriting the story you tell yourself. Instead of seeing the unknown as a threat, begin to see it as an adventure. Instead of fearing what you don't know, focus on what you can discover. Instead of worrying about failure, remind yourself of your capacity for growth. The unknown will always be a part of life. It is the space where possibility lives, where change happens, and where you have the chance to step into a new chapter of your life. By conquering the fear of the unknown, you not only open yourself up to new experiences but also empower yourself to create the future you truly want. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build resilience in the face of fear and how to cultivate the mental and emotional strength needed to navigate life's uncertainties with grace and determination. Because while fear may never disappear entirely, you have the power to move forward in spite of it, creating a life that is rich with possibility and growth. Chapter 8. Imagining your future success. Every great achievement begins with a vision. Long before the tangible results of success appear, there is a moment when the idea is born in someone's mind, a spark of inspiration, a dream, a possibility. Whether you're trying to improve your personal life, grow in your career, or navigate a significant change, The power of imagining future success cannot be underestimated. It's not just wishful thinking, it's the foundation on which everything else is built. Visualization is the ability to see something in your mind's eye before it exists in reality. Athletes do it before they step onto the field, imagining themselves winning the race or scoring the game-winning goal. Entrepreneurs do it when they envision the impact their business will make. Even in our daily lives, we use visualization when we picture ourselves achieving a goal, whether it's finishing a marathon, getting a promotion, or simply mastering a new skill. This chapter is about the power of visualizing your future success, how it shapes your actions, and why it's such a critical part of navigating change. When you can clearly see your future success, you create a mental roadmap that helps guide you through the inevitable obstacles and uncertainties along the way. It's not magic, it's about using your imagination to inspire action, boost confidence, and create the future you desire. The science behind visualization. Visualization isn't just a feel-good exercise, it has a foundation in neuroscience. When we imagine ourselves performing an action or achieving a goal, our brain treats it almost as if we were physically doing it. This mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as the real activity, strengthening the connection between thought and action. This is why visualization is such a powerful tool for achieving success. It helps prime your brain for the behaviors and actions that will bring your vision to life. For example, studies have shown that athletes who practice visualization improve their performance just as much as those who physically practice the same skills. By mentally rehearsing their movements and picturing successful outcomes, they condition their minds and bodies to perform at their best when it counts. In your own life, visualization can work in the same way. Whether you're preparing for a big presentation, working toward a personal goal, or stepping into an unfamiliar situation, mentally picturing your success helps your brain create a blueprint for how to get there. You begin to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the outcome you desire. Crafting a clear vision. One of the most important aspects of visualization is clarity. It's not enough to vaguely wish for success. You need to create a vivid, detailed picture of what that success looks like. The clearer your vision, the more powerful it becomes, because clarity helps focus your mind on specific goals. Start by asking yourself, what does success look like for me? This question will be different for everyone, depending on your goals, values, and aspirations. Success might mean advancing in your career, deepening your relationships, or achieving a sense of personal fulfillment. Whatever it is, take the time to define it clearly. Let's say you're working toward a career goal. Instead of simply saying, "I want to be successful in my job," try to get as specific as possible. Imagine yourself in the role you want to achieve. What does a typical day look like? What responsibilities do you have? How do you interact with others? What kind of environment are you working in? The more details you can include in your vision, the more real and attainable it will feel. The same goes for personal goals. If your vision of success involves improving your health, don't just picture yourself as fit or healthy. Get specific. Imagine how you feel when you wake up each morning, energized, strong, and ready to take on the day. Picture yourself doing activities you enjoy, whether it's hiking, swimming, or practicing yoga. See yourself thriving in your body, moving with ease and confidence. These details help anchor your vision in reality, making it something you can strive toward rather than an abstract idea. Engaging all your senses. Visualization becomes even more powerful when you engage all your senses. Instead of just imagining how your success looks, think about how it sounds, feels, and even smells or tastes. The more senses you involve, the more vivid and compelling your vision becomes. For instance, if you're preparing for a big speech or presentation, don't just picture yourself standing confidently on stage. Imagine the sound of your voice as it projects through the room, clear and steady. Feel the warmth of the spotlight on your skin. Hear the applause of the audience as you finish speaking. By engaging multiple senses, you create a more immersive mental experience, which strengthens your brain's connection to that future success. If your goal is something more personal, like running a marathon, use all your senses to create a detailed mental rehearsal. Picture the feel of your feet hitting the pavement, the rhythm of your breathing, the sound of the crowd cheering as you cross the finish line. Imagine the cool air on your skin, the taste of water after a long run, and the satisfaction that fills your body as you achieve your goal. The more fully you immerse yourself in the vision of your success, the more your mind will begin to believe it's possible. This belief, in turn, will shape your actions and choices, helping you move closer to making that vision a reality. Using visualization to overcome obstacles. One of the most practical applications of visualization is using it to navigate challenges and obstacles. Success is rarely a straight line, and it's important to prepare yourself mentally for the setbacks you might encounter along the way. Visualization can help you do just that. When you imagine your future success, don't shy away from visualizing the obstacles that might arise. Picture the difficulties you might face, the moments when things don't go as planned, when you feel discouraged, or when unexpected challenges throw you off course. But instead of letting these obstacles derail your vision, use visualization to imagine yourself overcoming them. For example, if you're preparing for a challenging project at work, you might visualize the potential difficulties, tight deadlines, conflicts with coworkers, or unexpected technical problems. Then, imagine yourself calmly and confidently handling each situation. Picture yourself finding solutions, asking for help when needed, and staying focused on your goal. By mentally rehearsing how you'll respond to challenges, you train your brain to stay resilient in the face of adversity. This approach doesn't just help you feel more prepared, it also reduces the fear and anxiety that often accompany change or difficult situations. When you've already imagined yourself successfully navigating obstacles, they become less intimidating when they appear in real life. Taking inspired action. While visualization is a powerful tool, it's important to remember that it's not a substitute for action. Imagining your future success is the first step, but it must be followed by concrete actions that move you toward that vision. Visualization helps clarify your goals, boost your confidence, and prime your mind for success, but it's up to you to take the necessary steps to turn that vision into reality. Think of visualization as a guide. Once you've created a clear mental picture of your future success, ask yourself, what can I do today to move closer to that vision? It might be a small step, sending an email, scheduling a meeting, signing up for a class, but each action you take brings you closer to your goal. Visualization also helps you stay focused on your long-term objectives, even when the path ahead is unclear. It's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day grind or lose sight of your larger goals when life gets busy. But by regularly revisiting your vision of success, you keep your mind aligned with where you want to go, which makes it easier to stay motivated and on track. Cultivating patience and persistence. Lastly, visualization helps cultivate two essential qualities for success: patience and persistence. Big goals often take time to achieve, and the road to success is rarely smooth. Visualization helps you stay connected to your larger purpose, even when progress feels slow or setbacks arise. When you can clearly see the outcome you're working toward, you're more likely to stay committed to your goals, even when the going gets tough. Visualization reminds you of why you're putting in the effort, and it reinforces your belief that success is possible, even if it doesn't happen overnight. Patience and persistence are critical for long-term success. By regularly visualizing your future achievements, you build the mental and emotional resilience needed to keep going, even when challenges arise. The power of a vision. The power of visualization lies in its ability to connect the future to the present. By imagining your future success in vivid detail, you create a mental roadmap that helps guide your actions, decisions, and mindset. Visualization primes your brain for achievement, builds confidence, and prepares you to overcome obstacles along the way. But visualization is just the beginning. To turn your vision into reality, you must combine it with deliberate action, patience, and persistence. The unknown future becomes less daunting when you've already seen a version of it in your mind. The more vividly you imagine your success, the more you will believe in its possibility, and the more likely you are to make it happen. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to stay focused and committed to your vision over the long term, navigating distractions, doubts, and external pressures that might pull you off course. Because success is not just about imagining it, it's about maintaining the focus and drive to see it through. Chapter 9: Embracing Continuous Change. Change doesn't happen just once. It isn't a singular event that comes, disrupts your life, and leaves things settled. In reality, life is a constant series of changes, some big, some small, some expected, some out of the blue. The people who thrive aren't those who resist change or treat it like a temporary disturbance, but those who recognize that change is continuous and learn to move with it. They don't just endure change, they welcome it as a necessary part of growth and progress. This chapter is about understanding that change is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. When we accept that the only constant in life is change, we can begin to live with more fluidity, adapting as we go and finding new ways to grow with each shift. This mindset of continuous change prepares us not only to survive, but to thrive in a world where nothing stays the same for long. The nature of continuous change. One of the reasons many people struggle with change is because they view it as a temporary disruption, something that interrupts their routine or plans, but that they expect will pass. They believe that once they've adjusted to a particular change, they'll be able to settle into a new, stable normal. But life doesn't work that way. As soon as one change settles, another begins. Think about your life over the past few years. How many changes have you experienced? They may have been major life events, moving to a new city, changing jobs, or entering or exiting a relationship. Or they may have been smaller, more gradual changes, new responsibilities at work, shifts in your interests or priorities, or changes in your health or habits. These changes didn't stop after a single event, they kept coming. Life, by its very nature, is dynamic. When we accept the reality of continuous change, we stop waiting for things to go back to normal or to reach a point of stability that never truly exists. Instead, we start to see change as the natural rhythm of life. This doesn't mean we have to constantly be in crisis mode or that we're always reacting to upheaval. It means that we learn to expect, anticipate, and flow with the ongoing shifts that occur, both in our personal lives and in the world around us. Staying open to new opportunities. When we embrace continuous change, we begin to see it as a source of opportunity rather than a threat. Each new change, whether it's a challenge or a blessing, carries within it the potential for growth. But to access that potential, we need to stay open to the possibilities that each change brings. Openness to change starts with letting go of the need for control. We all have a tendency to plan our lives in a way that gives us a sense of security. We set goals, create routines, and map out our future in a way that feels predictable and comfortable. While having goals and plans is important, clinging too tightly to them can make us resistant to the opportunities that arise unexpectedly. Consider the story of someone who plans their career path down to the last detail. They might work hard to climb the corporate ladder, only to be presented with an unexpected opportunity to start their own business. If they're too attached to their original plan, they might dismiss this new opportunity out of fear that it doesn't fit into their established vision. But if they stay open to the possibility that this change could lead to something better, something more fulfilling, they may discover a new path they hadn't previously considered. The same principle applies to personal growth. When we stay open to the changes in our relationships, interests, or passions, we give ourselves the freedom to evolve. A friendship that shifts as two people grow in different directions doesn't have to be a loss, it can be a chance to deepen the connection in new ways or to make room for other meaningful relationships. When we're not rigid about how things should be, we can adapt and make the most of how things are. Learning to pivot with purpose. Embracing continuous change doesn't mean constantly being in reactive mode. It's about learning to pivot with purpose. When changes come, instead of resisting or panicking, we can choose to approach them with a mindset of curiosity and intention. The concept of a pivot comes from the world of business, where companies often have to shift direction to adapt to market changes, new technology, or customer needs. A successful pivot requires flexibility, but it also requires focus. It's not about abandoning your goals or values. It's about finding a new way to achieve them in light of the changing landscape. In our personal lives, pivoting with purpose means recognizing when a change requires us to adjust our approach while still staying true to our core goals. For example, you might have a goal to build a career in a specific industry, but the industry itself could undergo significant shifts due to technology, regulations, or consumer demand. Rather than clinging to outdated methods, you can pivot by learning new skills, adapting to the trends, or even finding adjacent opportunities that align with your original vision. The key to a successful pivot is being proactive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for change to force your hand, you can stay ahead of the curve by anticipating where things are headed and preparing yourself for the shifts. This might mean staying informed about trends in your field, continually developing new skills, or regularly reevaluating your goals to ensure they align with the changing circumstances. Building resilience for the long term. Continuous change requires resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt to new circumstances, and keep moving forward in the face of challenges. But resilience isn't just about surviving difficult times, it's about thriving in the face of change. Resilience comes from several key practices. Emotional flexibility. Resilient people don't cling to rigid expectations or try to control everything. Instead, they allow themselves to experience the full range of emotions that come with change, fear, excitement, uncertainty, hope, and they adjust their mindset as needed. They're able to shift from disappointment to determination, from fear to action, and from frustration to curiosity. Resourcefulness. When things change, resilient people don't wait for someone else to solve their problems. They take ownership of their situation and look for creative ways to adapt. This might mean finding new resources, seeking help from others, or rethinking their strategy. Resilience is about being able to draw on internal and external resources to navigate change effectively. Optimism. Resilient people tend to have a positive outlook on life, not because they believe everything will always work out perfectly, but because they believe they have the power to make the best of whatever comes their way. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties. It means trusting that even in tough times, there's always the potential for growth and progress. Self-care and reflection. Resilience is also about maintaining your mental and physical well-being. Continuous change can be exhausting, and if you're not taking care of yourself, it's easy to burn out. Resilient people make time for rest, reflection, and self-care, allowing themselves the space to recharge and reflect on what's working and what needs to change. Cultivating a growth mindset. One of the most important aspects of embracing continuous change is cultivating a growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that your abilities, intelligence, and potential are not fixed, but can be developed over time through effort, learning, and experience. When you have a growth mindset, change is no longer something to be feared. It's something to be embraced as part of the learning process. With a growth mindset, you see setbacks and challenges not as failures, but as opportunities to learn and improve. If something doesn't work out, it's not the end of the road, it's simply a stepping stone to something better. This mindset helps you stay motivated and resilient in the face of continuous change because you're always focused on how you can grow, adapt, and evolve. People with a growth mindset are also more likely to seek out new challenges and take risks, because they understand that growth often comes from stepping outside of their comfort zone. They're not afraid of making mistakes, because they see mistakes as valuable feedback that can help them get closer to their goals. Embracing change as a way of life. When we accept that change is a constant, we stop seeing it as a disruption and start seeing it as a natural part of life. Instead of waiting for things to settle down or go back to how they were, we learn to live in the flow of change. We embrace the idea that we are always evolving, always learning, and always adapting. This mindset doesn't just help us navigate life's inevitable ups and downs, it opens us up to a richer, more fulfilling existence. When we stop resisting change, we start welcoming new opportunities, experiences, and growth. We become more resilient, more creative, and more capable of thriving in an ever-changing world. The journey of life is not about reaching a static destination, it's about continuously moving forward, evolving with each new chapter, and discovering what we are truly capable of becoming. By embracing continuous change, we free ourselves from the limits of the past and step boldly into the future, ready for whatever comes next. In the final chapter, we'll explore how to apply everything we've learned about navigating change to create a life that is not only adaptable, but also deeply fulfilling, meaningful, and aligned with your true potential. Because in the end, change isn't just something that happens to us, it's something we can actively shape and direct toward the life we want to live. Conclusion: navigating change with confidence and purpose. As we come to the end of this journey, it's important to recognize that navigating change is not a skill you master once, it's a lifelong process. Change is constant, unpredictable, and often outside of our control, but how we respond to it determines the quality of our lives. The more we embrace change with confidence and purpose, the more we unlock our potential to live fulfilling, meaningful lives, no matter what the future holds. The path through life is rarely straight, and it's certainly not without its challenges. But with each step, each twist and turn, you gain valuable experience that prepares you for what's next. You've learned to anticipate change, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to embrace new possibilities with open arms. You've faced your fears, visualized your success, and taken intentional steps toward your goals. Now, it's time to tie everything together and explore how these lessons can continue to shape your life going forward. Embracing the journey. Perhaps the most important lesson we've explored is that life is a journey of continuous change. There is no final destination where everything falls into place and remains stable forever. Instead, life is a series of evolving circumstances, and success is found not in reaching a fixed point, but in how you navigate the journey itself. This shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing. When you stop waiting for things to settle down or for a perfect moment to arrive, you begin to embrace the present and all it has to offer. You stop seeing change as an interruption and start seeing it as an integral part of life, a source of new opportunities, growth, and discovery. Instead of fearing the unknown, you approach it with curiosity, knowing that each new challenge is a stepping stone to something greater. Living with this mindset means accepting that there will always be uncertainty, and that's okay. Uncertainty doesn't mean instability, it means potential. It means that life is full of surprises, some of which will push you to grow in ways you never expected. By embracing the journey, you learn to live with an open heart and mind, ready to adapt and thrive, no matter where the path leads. Continuously letting go. Another key theme we've explored is the importance of letting go. Throughout life, we accumulate attachments, whether it's to people, careers, places, or even ideas of who we think we should be. But holding on too tightly to these attachments can prevent us from moving forward when change arrives. Letting go isn't about giving up, it's about making room for the new. Letting go allows you to shed what no longer serves you and make space for growth. This might mean leaving behind an outdated career path, ending a relationship that no longer aligns with your values, or simply releasing old habits or mindsets that are keeping you stuck. While letting go can be painful, it's often the most necessary step to move into a new chapter of your life. The more you practice the art of letting go, the easier it becomes. You begin to recognize that clinging to the past only limits your potential for the future. You start to trust that by releasing what is no longer working, you're opening yourself up to opportunities that are better aligned with who you are becoming. Letting go isn't a one-time event, it's a skill you develop over time, and it's essential for navigating a world that is constantly changing. The power of resilience. Resilience is another central theme that we've touched on throughout this book. Change, especially when it's unexpected or difficult, can be challenging. But resilience is what allows you to face these challenges head-on, adapt, and keep moving forward. It's the ability to recover from setbacks, stay grounded during uncertainty, and trust that you have the strength to handle whatever life throws your way. Resilience doesn't mean never feeling fear, doubt, or frustration. It means acknowledging those feelings and continuing to move forward anyway. It means seeing setbacks as temporary, learning from your mistakes, and knowing that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. The more resilient you become, the less intimidated you are by change, because you've proven to yourself time and time again that you can handle it. Building resilience is a process, and it's one that involves taking care of yourself, both physically and mentally. It means recognizing when you need to rest, when you need support, and when you need to push yourself to take the next step. Resilience is about cultivating a mindset of growth, where you see challenges not as threats but as opportunities to become stronger, more adaptable, and more confident in your ability to navigate life's changes. Visualizing and creating your future. One of the most powerful tools for navigating change is the ability to visualize your future success. As we've explored, visualization isn't just about daydreaming, it's about creating a clear mental picture of what you want to achieve and using that vision to guide your actions. When you can clearly see where you want to go, you create a roadmap for how to get there. But visualization alone isn't enough. It's the combination of vision and action that leads to real change. Once you've imagined your future success, you need to take consistent, intentional steps toward making that vision a reality. This might mean breaking your goals into smaller, manageable steps, seeking out new learning opportunities, or building habits that align with your larger vision. It's also important to remember that your vision for the future will evolve over time. As you grow and change, your goals may shift, and that's perfectly normal. The key is to stay open to where life is leading you, while also remaining focused on the bigger picture of who you want to become. By regularly revisiting your vision and adjusting it as needed, you ensure that you're always moving in the direction that aligns with your values and aspirations. Staying open to the possibilities. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself in life is the ability to stay open to possibilities. When you're open, you're willing to consider new opportunities, explore new paths, and engage with people and ideas that challenge your perspective. Being open doesn't mean being reckless or abandoning your goals. It means being flexible and adaptable as life presents new opportunities. Staying open requires curiosity, a willingness to learn, and the courage to take risks. It means embracing change as a natural part of life and trusting that the unknown isn't something to fear, but something to explore. When you stay open, you invite growth into your life, allowing yourself to be surprised by the unexpected opportunities that come your way. Being open also means accepting that sometimes life doesn't go according to plan, and that's okay. The most fulfilling experiences often come from the detours, the surprises, and the opportunities we didn't see coming. By staying open, you give yourself the freedom to adapt and to grow in ways you never imagined. Building a life aligned with change. Ultimately, the goal is not to resist change, but to build a life that is aligned with it. This means creating a life that is flexible, adaptable, and open to new possibilities. It means embracing change as an opportunity for growth, learning, and personal evolution, rather than seeing it as a disruption to be feared. Building a life aligned with change requires intention. It means regularly reflecting on your goals, values, and aspirations, and making adjustments as needed. It means surrounding yourself with people who support your growth, staying curious and open to learning, and taking care of your mental and physical well-being. It means being proactive about change, rather than waiting for it to happen to you. When you align your life with change, you stop seeing it as something that happens outside of you and start recognizing that you have the power to shape it. You become an active participant in your own life, taking responsibility for your choices and actions, and creating a future that aligns with your deepest desires and values. Moving forward with confidence and purpose. As you move forward from here, remember that change is not something to be feared, it's something to be embraced. Each new chapter of your life brings with it the opportunity for growth, discovery, and fulfillment. By adopting a mindset that welcomes change, by staying open to possibilities, and by trusting in your own resilience and adaptability, you position yourself to thrive in an ever-changing world. The journey of life is not about avoiding change or reaching a place of permanent stability. It's about learning to navigate the waves of change with confidence and purpose, knowing that each new experience is shaping you into the person you are meant to become. With every change, you have the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to create a life that is rich with meaning and purpose. Embrace it. Trust in your ability to adapt, and move forward with the knowledge that you are fully capable of navigating whatever comes next. The future is uncertain, but that uncertainty is where the magic happens. It's where new possibilities are born, and where you have the chance to create a life that is truly your own. So take the lessons you've learned, embrace the changes ahead, and move forward with confidence, purpose, and an open heart. Your best chapters are still being written. Copyright 2024 by AudioBooksTube. Thank you for listening. Please consider to subscribe, like, and share to help the channel grow new videos on a daily basis.